Hey guys, today I'm doing my out-of-box review for the SunToys Super-Deformed Master Grade RX-78-2 black version. So this is a pretty cool kit. I not too long ago reviewed their kind of SD, sort of semi-SD style Evangelion kit from SunToys. And this one, although it's a similar style in terms of like the proportions and everything of it, it definitely had a much different feel to it, where this basically feels like a shrunken down Master Grade, and the Evangelion felt like a shrunken down Kotobukiya kit. So that does kind of make sense, and of course they are just very different builds, as you'd imagine. This one, though, I had a little bit more trouble with this one, to be honest, in terms of like fitting issues. This one was a little bit more difficult to get some parts to fit together, and as you may see, some parts on it don't fit together all that well. But at the moment, it doesn't have any glue on it, so I haven't had to glue anything, so you can get away with building it as is, just without any glue. But I definitely would, if you are planning on like painting it and anything, I would definitely recommend going ahead and probably gluing some of the parts that are giving you a little bit more trouble. Some parts you'll probably have to trim down a little bit more just to get them to fit. Okay, so the first accessory we'll talk about here is the stand. So it does come with the same stand that came with the Eva kit, and just have this little adapter here. And so it works like the same as with any Bandai figure that is just on a little peg there. So you could use this with a different stand if you want. Right, so as I was saying, this is basically just your run-of-the-mill third-party bootleg kit from China. It's quite typical that it just has a little bit of fitting issues, but that's just kind of something that you just kind of have to accept with the territory. It'll take a little bit more work to get it to be as nice as a Bandai kit. It's just not a Bandai kit, so that's just kind of the way that it goes. But it's certainly not a bad kit at all. It's got a lot of details, and it has a lot of weapons and accessories, so that's definitely one thing going for it. Also, of course, comes with the stand there, as well as some water slide decals. So you're definitely getting a lot of bang for your buck in there. There's plenty of stuff to play with in this kit, and a lot of different options, so that's always nice to have. There's also, you can see, an LED there in the head. It didn't come with an LED, at least mine didn't include an LED. The Eva kit did come with an LED, but that one used a little bit different one. This one just uses your standard Bandai LED unit, so I think that's why maybe it wasn't included. With the Eva kit, they used like their own design for that. The nice thing about the Eva kit, though, is that it had a very convenient little button on the back of the head that you could press to turn it on. In the case for this one, you have to take a few of the armor panels off the back of the head in order to get to the LED unit inside, so it's a little bit annoying to kind of get in there to turn it on and off. Also, the clear parts for the eyes and the camera on the top are actually yellow, but the LED that I've got in there is red, so it's actually kind of showing a little bit kind of orangish red now, but the clear parts are yellow. I don't have a yellow LED unit on hand, so I wasn't able to use that, but I think if you wanted to keep those a yellow LED in there would work probably best. But I do kind of like it in the red color. So anyway, a huge thank you to Hobby Mission for sending me this kit. Guys, you can check out the link below and check out their sites. Hobby Mission sells kits like this and other kind of third-party bootleg kits, and then other P-Bandai kits and things as well, so you can check out their site. And so let me give you guys a look at some of the other stuff that this kit does come with before we talk about the other gimmicks on the kit and articulation and all of that. Just a reminder, you do get this nice sheet of water slide decals. So you get a whole bunch there in red, white, and silver, actually. But again, like I said in the unboxing, I think once you've got top coat on the silver, I think those should just be gray. So we got a bunch of these. Alright, so here we have the bazooka, the Hyper Bazooka. We actually have two of these, and they're pretty nice. The front handle doesn't move at all, so I'm not sure how he'll be able to hold that. It would be nice if that was able to rotate forward, but hopefully you can hold it okay. Well, it's pretty nicely detailed. It has a little peg here where you can plug in a little connector to connect that onto the back skirt. Then we've got kind of three different versions of the beam rifle. So here we just got the standard beam rifle. You can see a clear yellow part in there for that. This front secondary handle does move side to side. It does have a little connection tab which will fold out. It's a little bit tricky to get it out. You kind of have to push it out with something, but that folds out to the side. That you'll be able to plug that onto the back skirt as well. And this version is the same thing with the napalm launcher underneath. Now, you do have another one of these, and I think you're supposed to be able to do this for both of them, but I only had one set of the little missiles there. So I think maybe my kit was maybe missing the second set of those possibly, or I'm not sure, or you're just not meant to have two of those. But you do have this other one that I guess you could very easily just use some pieces of runner or something, just whittle those down to be able to fit in there to make a second one if you want. It wouldn't be the hardest thing to do. And then the third one we have here is an RX-78-1, like a prototype Gundam style looking beam rifle, where it doesn't have the camera, it doesn't have the secondary handle. It's just kind of more simple beam rifle. So this one actually, there's no instructions for this in the manual, but all the parts are there, and it's shown on the last page showing you where to put the decals on the kit. It shows where you're supposed to put a decal on this rifle, but it actually doesn't show in the manual where to build it, but you can kind of figure it out. It's really just a few parts. And then we've got the shield here, which looks great in that red and black color scheme. So we have the secondary handle, which will fold like that, or just the handle, I should say. And then this part, of course, will just attach onto the arm. Inside here, you can see there's two little tabs next to the handle, and those are for plugging in the beam saber handles if you choose to use the cannons for the backpack instead of the beam sabers. So if you want to take the beam sabers off the backpack, then you can use these cannons. So we have two of these. These are actually really cool. I didn't know that these were actually included with the kit because I hadn't seen these in any of the promo images before. But you can use one for the left and one for the right, and those will just, like I said, just replace the beam sabers connected onto there. There's a clear part inside that will give you a clear yellow part there for the camera, for both cameras, and then a little bit of clear yellow here on the side as well. So these are really, really cool, actually, and so this was a pleasant surprise to be included. For the beam sabers, we have our beam saber effect parts, which, as I showed in the unboxing, again, there is a bubble inside here. Unfortunately, it's not that noticeable, I think, but what is more noticeable is the nub marks. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gates on this, actually, 3 going down there, and then 1 on each side. So, and I found them to be not very good when you're trying to cut those off. They kind of just break off really not very well, so you'll have to probably do a little work to hide those nub marks a little bit better if you want to get those looking nice and clean. Or I think you could probably just use a Bandai beam saber effect part and it should work. For whatever reason, he's got 4 of these despite only having 2 beam saber handles, so yeah, you'll have a couple extras. Or I suppose what you could do is you'd have to drill a hole. This is the handle for the hyper beam javelin, and it doesn't have any hole on either end of it, but if you could just drill a little hole in there, you could use this at the end of the hyper beam javelin, and that could work out pretty cool. I think this side, it'd be pretty close. You'd have to be drilling really close to the edge there. But you could definitely try to utilize that because you have 2 hyper beam javelin poles, but only 1 effect part. Now again, I'm not sure if maybe mine was missing the second set of effect parts for the hyper beam javelin, but I only got 1 set, so that's okay. I was kind of looking forward to having 2, so I'm not sure if that's a mistake or not, but mine only just came with the 1 set. It's a pretty cool effect part though. It's definitely very unique, and this one as well, you can see little bubbles in there, unfortunately, and the nub marks on these parts weren't as bad, but it's still kind of okay. I mean, as far as beam effect parts go, it's not too bad. And then we've got this alternative backpack part. Now, I'm not exactly sure why, but I don't think you need this. Like, for example, if you wanted to use the cannons will plug onto here, like so, but they should plug onto the regular backpack as well. So I think this is maybe just an option or something, but it's a little bit different style. This one's black, whereas the one on the Gundam there is in that metallic gunmetal color. And then we've got a bunch of these, 10 to be exact, these like thruster effect parts, and these will just plug into all of the thruster bells, just like that. So there's 1 there, and if you fold out these, you have an extra set of thrusters that will fold out of the backpack there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 on the backpack, 2 more up under the feet, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then here in the back of the leg, this part will also fold out. And there's 1 more thruster there in the back of the calf. So that will give you a total of 10 that you could fully use on this if you want some full thrust. And then the last thing here is just our option hands. Now we have a bunch of different option hands, open hands for the left and right, trigger finger hands for the left and the right, regular holding hands for the left and the right, and then these kind of like javelin holding hands here for the left and the right. Now you don't have enough hand covers for all of them, so you'll have to swap the covers for some of the hands. It's kind of unfortunate that they didn't give you enough covers for the back of all the hands. So although you have 10 hands, you only have 5 covers, so you'll have to swap those accordingly. Alright, so let's get into talking a little bit about the articulation, and I can see my LED is already starting to fade or something. It's one of those knockoff LEDs, so probably doesn't work all that well. Anyway, the head is very loose, so that doesn't really want to stay on very well, but you can move it up and down a little bit, not too much, and of course side to side and all of that, but some nice details all around. I like the different panel separation and everything. Overall, it's a really nice looking head for sure. Here on the chest, this little part will fold up a little bit there, so you can kind of open that up a little bit. This side was really hard to get in together. I had a really hard time. There's a clear orange part there inside those little cameras there on the chest. Had a very difficult time getting those parts to fit together properly, and in the process of doing that, I actually broke one of the little vents here. So you can see there's supposed to be 3 in each side of the vents, and it actually looks kind of crowded there with the 3 of them there. They don't seem to look like they're fitting in properly, but yeah, one of them I broke, so I'll have to fix that later. But just be careful when you're putting those parts together. You can sort of open the cockpit a little bit. It's kind of tricky. You can get that open a little bit, and you can sort of see what sort of looks like a folded up core fighter inside, sort of. In the midsection, you can get a little bit of articulation here, a little bit of bend forward and back. It's kind of bent all the way forward is just kind of like the standard position, it seems like, but you can bend that back if you wanted to. Side to side, also a little bit of motion here, and then of course you can rotate that there as well. The shoulder armor is kind of like the 3.0, where like the front and back panels will move a little bit forward and back like that. The whole thing will move up and down, and this is one part that I'm touching very gently because I don't want it to just fall to pieces. The shoulder armor was a part that I had trouble. I would definitely recommend gluing the top and bottom half of this top part, which kind of hold everything together. I don't really want to fit together properly, so I'll have to kind of trim the pegs a little bit and then probably just glue that. The whole shoulder will move front and back a little bit, not too much, but then that whole section will move up as well, so you can move that up. And at this point, you're basically getting to the limit where you're just bumping into the head because the head is so big. So the head kind of gets in the way, but you can raise the arm up plenty high. And then, of course, it's just standard arm rotates at the top, double joint in the elbow. Hand is just on a ball joint. This part here at the front of the arm, also a little bit loose. That part is sort of like an RG. All the skirt armor is very Master Grade-esque. It sort of moves up and rotates, but it doesn't really work too well. You kind of have to manually move every joint by hand because stuff just kind of falls apart a little bit on you. But you can move that up, out of the way like so. Side skirts as well, just move up and out of the way. Shouldn't be any problem there. This is why I saved articulation for after talking about the accessories, because as I'm trying to move around the kit, stuff is just falling off all over the place. You can see the back skirts fell off. The little thrusters inside the backpack in there, those fell out. I would definitely recommend gluing those. One of the front skirts fell off. And anyway, it's all stuff that isn't really a problem. It's only a problem if you're trying to review the kit in front of a camera. If you're just building the kit and painting it and all of that, this won't be an issue for you. Like I said, just glue some of this stuff in place. It'll be totally fine. But the legs can spread all the way out to the side. There's no problem there. The skirt armor doesn't inhibit the leg motion at all. You can bring the leg up forward and then bend at the knee. Will separate that knee armor and it will fall out. This is one of the areas where actually it seemed to have a little bit of a mold defect. The little pegs there on the back of that knee armor that's supposed to keep this held inside that joint, the pegs were kind of molded incorrectly. There's a little bit of a thing there where you have to kind of carve that peg to be able to fit in correctly, and as you've just seen, it isn't a really super nice fit, but I said just be careful with that and just make sure you bend it and hold the things properly while you're bending that, and you can get that to bend fine, and the knee separation from that is pretty cool. Down here at the foot, the ankle armor will move around a little bit. The toe will bend up and down, but this is another part I recommend gluing because it seems to want to pop off very easily. Up underneath the feet, as you saw before, some nice detail there. The whole foot does bend in the middle too as well, of course. And then we've got movement side to side and front and back, front and back. All right, now I'm not going to give you guys like a whole bunch of different poses with this kit. As you've seen, there's a lot of different weapon options that you can do. You can get crazy with it. I kind of like this setup for it. This is probably a pretty cool setup, I think. And just think you guys get the idea. And honestly, just like I said, because stuff is kind of like falling off a lot, it's a little bit difficult and a little bit frustrating to change the poses a lot. Now, I definitely don't consider this to be a bad kit by any means. It's just kind of one of those things you just kind of have to know what you're getting into. I wouldn't really recommend it for a beginner if you're wanting something that you can like change the pose around a lot with and just kind of play with a lot. You can glue a lot of that stuff, like I said, and I would definitely recommend doing so. But this is probably definitely more recommended for those of you guys who have a bit more experience and you just kind of are more used to having to do a little bit more work on kits like this to get the desired results. Now, as you can see, I think you can get some really amazing results with this kit. It is a really cool looking kit for sure, and with all those different weapons and accessories, like I said, you can choose whatever you want to make it look pretty awesome. So definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of the RX-78-2. As far as I know, there's no difference at all between this one and the original one, except for just the color that it's molded in. So if you're painting it, I think it really doesn't matter. It would have been cool if they would have done something different with this one, at least maybe given it some different decal markings or something, but as far as I know, even the decals are exactly the same. So that's kind of disappointing that all they did was just change the molded color of it. But again, if you paint, it really doesn't matter. It just kind of would have given people an incentive to buy another one if maybe they already bought the first one. Maybe if they wanted to get the second one as well because it had something new to it, but it just kind of doesn't. So anyway, that should just about cover it. If you guys do still have any other questions or comments, of course, just leave those down below. And again, you can check the link in the description for the Hobby Mission website where you can order this if you are so inclined. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.